Hey guys, welcome back again to the Cut Light and Smoke podcast. Today we are joined by two beautiful ladies, and both these beautiful ladies are related to me by birth, meaning they are both my daughters. In the middle shot, you have my 18-year-old daughter, Madeline Daisy Reith. Madeline, say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Hi, okay.
Hello.
And then you have my oldest daughter on the far right, and that is Savannah Grace Reith. I'm giving you their full name so you can
That's not my name.
hack on. I don't know, Savannah Grace Marshall.
I
forgot. I forgot.
How dare you?
I'm so
has
sorry.
Started.
She is married, and I just somehow dishonored her family name, so I apologize for that.
Ethan.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, we're going to be having kind of a fun little conversation today about what it's like to be raised by a masculine man raising feminine women, and how that was like being raised in the cigar industry with, you know, your dad being there and you two both having your proclivities, let's just say that, proclivities towards cigars. So the first thing I want you to do, I'm going to start out with Madeline because she's not been in here as much, and Savannah, everybody knows you. But Madeline, tell them how old you are, and tell them anything you want to about being raised by a guy who's in the cigar industry. Go.
I'm 18 years old.
Talk in the microphone.
I'm 18 years old. Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm 18 years old. Being raised with a father who in the cigar industry is certainly interesting. You definitely don't have like you know when like people are like, oh, what do your parents do? Or like, are you gonna follow in their footsteps? You're kind of like, oh, let's have a chat here about like really break down this. But it's most of the time people aren't really like mad that you own a cigar store. They're just like interested. They're like, oh, that's really cool. Right. Mostly because I have mature friends and that's just the way it goes.
Sure.
But it's just.
But most of your friends' dads don't work in the cigar industry.
No.
They don't do that. They might have a retail shop or something like that.
Yeah.
But most of them are, you know, probably bankers, lawyers, doctors, or what have you. So, yeah, okay.
And it's even, they definitely get really interested when I tell them that you own the shop. Yeah. Because like, oh my goodness, your dad started up his own shop. That's so cool. And I was like, yeah, I used to like work there and help out. And they're like, wait, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And at first they always think that I sell the cigars. And they're like, what, you sell it? And I'm like, listen, it's okay. It's okay. I worked in the back. I didn't sell them.
Yeah. You're packing and shipping. Packing and shipping. Definitely a family dynasty we're trying to create here. So your brother's not here. Your brother's not on, but he's been on himself before and so on and so forth. So, but Savannah, tell them a little bit about your time at shop. What's it like to be raised by a cigar smoking dad?
Oh, not just in the industry.
Not just whatever you want to say.
Well, my experience differs very much from Madeline because I don't consider being raised in the cigar industry. I consider being raised in ministry more because I was 16. I was 16 when you guys got out of ministry completely. So for most of my life, you guys were in ministry. So I consider myself raised in ministry. Madeline is probably a little bit more raised in the cigar industry.
Well, talk about the challenges with that, because I know there's some challenges being raised in ministry because we moved around a lot. We did. And I was a pastor 20 years, basically. I was a pastor 20 years before I got in here. So how did that affect you guys?
Do you want both me to answer first and then
you can
Maddie?
answer first and then Madeline can.
I don't know. I don't want to speak for Madeline. It was very difficult for me to the point where I told Ethan, short of Jesus himself coming down, I don't ever want to go into ministry.
Okay. Yeah.
There were two things that I told my husband when we started dating. I said, look, if you're going to be in the military or if you're going to be in ministry, this isn't going to work. And I have very much a perfectionist personality that I think is personally very dangerous in ministry because a pastor is already held to a higher standard that naturally kind of passes to his family as well. The family itself is held to a higher standard, which is very difficult when you're a child and you're just trying to figure out your own relationship with God apart from what you're. Not that my parents told me anything wrong, but apart from what your parents are telling you, because eventually it has to become your own. But also, you're just going to make mistakes. You just are. And then to have that higher standard automatically put on you that isn't on every other child in your church is very, very difficult. And especially for me as a perfectionist personality, that wasn't a healthy environment. And I think sometimes part of understanding your own personality is understanding you are able to control that part of your personality better in certain environments, and it's not even worth putting yourself in an environment where it's difficult to control and get a handle on. So personally, I'm happy to serve in my church, but I don't think we would probably ever serve in like a pastoral role. But it's very difficult to be in ministry. I've seen this not only in my family, but in other families, like friends that are very close to us. It's a very, very difficult job, very emotionally and mentally demanding. And don't get me wrong, I think it can also be one of the most fulfilling. Like I think as a pastor, you probably see some of the best highs of people's lives, but also the lowest lows of people's lives. And those lowest lows are what can really take a toll on you.
Oh, sure.
And I'm speaking from what I've seen from my own father, as well as close friends and family who have also been in ministry. So I think I might have a very different view from Madeline, just because I was so much older going through it with our family, and I was so much older. We're 5 years apart. So she was 11 when mom and dad got out of ministry completely.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Madeline, comment on what Savannah said.
How do I compete with what you just said?
It's not a competition, it's a conversation.
You covered everything though, girl. Oh my goodness.
Well, you have to have a different experience.
No, I did. I don't think it was a lot more of like the pressure that I was feeling from having like a dad who was like a full-time pastor and was involved in all of those church stuff. I think it was more stressful just because we would hop around churches a lot, and when we finally planted a church and I finally felt comfortable that I was like, my dad was the pastor and then like I had all my other friends here, like it was just hard to leave that church and go to a completely different one. And then we went through a couple of stages of where we were just like church hopping from, oh my God, I hated church hopping so much. But I think it was just a lot, because ministry in and of itself is a lot. It's a lot to handle. Like you're speaking the word and the truth about so many things, and God, I know, I'm pretty sure you don't want to get God wrong when you're talking.
No.
But I just think, and sometimes when you would get stressed, I think sometimes I felt that stress because I'm sure being a pastor and being in ministry must have been extremely stressful.
It was 10 times more stressful than the job I have now. Yeah, 10 to 20 times more.
Yeah.
Well,
way more stressful. And I think when you're a pastor, you're dealing with, like you said, Savannah, I thought was very, very astute. I mean, you're dealing with the highest highs and the lowest lows. So you're doing weddings and you're celebrating things with people, and then you're burying babies. I mean, it's both ends of the spectrum, and so it does take a little bit of a toll on you. Yeah. So,
well, I think also, I don't know how much you would remember, Madeline. I also don't know if you don't want me talking about the church plants on here. I don't know if you've talked about those.
I don't care.
Okay.
I got nothing to hide.
I just wanted to make sure, because it's not only our story. It's not only our story, but seeing you and mom go through 2 failed church plants was very difficult as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because especially as a child, you're looking like, we're held to a higher standard. And I know that mom and dad are trying to do the right thing, but why is it failing? Like, are we doing something wrong as a family?
Sure. And you take that on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. And you feel guilty. Yeah.
I took a lot on myself.
I know you took a lot.
What's interesting though, and I will say this, I think I've told you this story before, Dad, when you guys came to us, this was our church plan in Phoenix. When you came to us and you said that you were going to plant a church, I immediately, like right after you said that, I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And I was like, I should tell Dad, I don't think this is going to work. Why I thought I should tell you that was beyond me. But I immediately heard this voice in my head that, like, you're right. It's going to fail, but I have a bigger plan for this. So don't say anything. Just let him do it.
Wow.
And I honestly believe that if you had not planted that church, you wouldn't have gone into this industry.
That's probably true.
Launched from
it's
there.
Probably
so
true.
I see this as the culmination of something that happened almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think so for you guys who are interested in the journey, I was a pastor at several different churches. Once every 4 years. It was almost like graduating college or high school, if you would.
Yeah.
We'd move into a different church or a different season of ministry.
It's like on and off.
And it's really interesting. So and I planted 2 different church plants, and both of them did close, and both of them did fail. And so I think it was really interesting going through that. And as as I assess that kind of stuff, as I assess my life, it's like the things I did that I succeeded at, things I did that I failed at, and the lessons that you learn in that. I think I learned more lessons in failure than I did in ever success. And so the lessons have been great, both for myself as a dad and as a husband, and then as a pastor of people in general, because I still have a pastor's heart and I still work with people a lot. So I think that's an important, disclaimer to put in there is that, and I'm not making any excuses for why. I think there's a million reasons why a church fails. I really do. I don't think you can just point to one thing.
Yeah.
But I know that, because of it actually shutting down, that is something that actually we ended up going into the cigar industry before we ever closed the church. So we ended up getting in the cigar industry working kind of bivocationally, if you would. And then we just had the cigar industry in the stores and Cigar Warehouse, TNT, that just took so much more time that it was easy to close and transition down from that into full-time with, Cigar Warehouse and TNT. So I think that was one of the biggest, that was an easy move for me. I was kind of burned out. But it was funny because the last church plant I opened, that I led with, I told your mom this at the very beginning. I don't know if I ever told you guys because you were so little. I think the very first time I planted a church, a lot of my identity was wrapped up in that, like all my value and worth of like what people are going to think of me and all these expectations and everything like that. The second time I had none of that. I was like, you know what, if this works, it's great. If people gather around and they do it, that's awesome. And I'm doing everything I can to raise funds for it. And we're networking and everything else like that. And it went really well for a little bit, but in all honesty, when it shut down, I wasn't like, oh no, I'm a failed pastor. I never cared. I was like, that doesn't bother me whatsoever. I think it's easier as a man when that kind of stuff happens. Like when that happens, you go, okay, where's my identity and value at? Is it in Christ alone, or is it in working for Christ alone? Is it working and people looking at you and going, oh my gosh, you were, I heard there's a guy who called me one time. He goes, you're going to be the best megachurch pastor ever. And I'm like, I never planted a megachurch, bro. I've never done that. I have no desire, to do that whatsoever. But I think there's a lot of reasons, that stuff happens. And I know that getting out of ministry in general was one of the healthiest things for your mother and I and for our family in general.
I have never seen you. I don't think I've ever seen like our family more happy and content.
Oh yeah.
And healthier relationships.
Yeah.
Oh sure.
Not only with each other, but I feel like our relationships with other Christians around us improved after we got out of ministry. Because then we didn't really feel like we were being held to a higher standard as a family.
Yeah. Right.
And also, I want to make this point. Biblically, pastors are held to a higher standard. I'm not saying that's not correct. I'm just saying it can be difficult and it puts a lot more pressure.
Well, the standard that you're talking about are the religious rules that people make up in their own heads about how a pastor should act. Yeah. And there's obviously things in Scripture about how pastors.
That's what I'm talking about. Like what's in Scripture,
right?
Not what people come up with in their own heads.
But what a lot of pastors deal with, in particular, are how people's expectations of them should be. The amount of times people came up to me and said, hey, my grandmother's in the hospital. I just came to this church last week. I'd like you to come visit my grandmother. And I'm like, well, if I have time, I'll definitely do that. But there's a bunch of other people who have been here for so long that I have other obligations too. Yeah. And somebody who's new and visiting wants me to come meet their grandmother and talk with her and pray for her. I would absolutely do that, but I may not have the time. And then those expectations get really, really cross-wired with people. And they're like, why don't you see my grandmother? This is your job. You do what I tell you to. And this is not a person that's involved in the church. They don't care anything about you. They they're in a minute of crisis and they want you. And a lot of people find pastors that way. I got a wedding. I got a funeral. I got something like this. I need a church. I need somebody. Come here and do this. But they have no expectation. They have all the expectation that a pastor drops at least this is what I experienced, that you have to drop everything when I tell you right now, regardless of how I'm involved in the church or not. I know somebody from your church. That's happened multiple times. And quite frankly, I really didn't care about that. I was like, listen, I have other obligations. I'm really sorry. We're not an on-call church where you just, you do something and we come bow down, because pastors are people too. I mean, we have other obligations. We have family time. If my will bent to what everybody wanted at any time, I would never have any time for you guys. I never would have. I never would have.
Well, I do think that is one of the problems in, I don't want to say ministry in itself, just a lot of Christians and a lot of people that I've seen who have had those experiences with pastors who they have tried to like, my mother is dying, can you please pray for her? Can you please like visit her? Stuff like that. And they just can't do it because they are people and this is not their like, yes, God is your life, but like being a pastor is not your entire life.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's what you do. It's
need-
your calling.
yeah.
It's what you do, but it's not everything that you do. I mean, every pastor has a wife. Most pastors have wives and children.
Yeah. And I think that's,
yeah.
I think that it's kind of like if you can kind of relate it to just like a normal job in general. Like you go to like, let's say like a barista, you only see that barista in that setting. And so you only assume that's all they do. That's what they're there for. That is their entire life. That's just, I just feel like as humans, you kind of just, you see one person in some sort of lighting and you just immediately think that of them for everything.
I think it's also pointing to like a lack of community.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you're going out of your way to talk to this pastor who you've never met before, you've met just once, you've just now visited their church, you maybe don't have a really strong community around you. Because that, like, I wouldn't immediately go, for example, when we moved to Knoxville, obviously we had to find a new church. So if God forbid something had happened to my husband in the first couple of weeks that we were there, the first couple of weeks that we had gone to that church, some people that we had met at the church, I may have reached out and said, hey, would you just mind praying? This is what we're going through. I would not have gone to the pastor's door and said, you need to come to A, B, and C hospital. Like you just don't do that.
I think because people have different experiences from their past with different pastors, they take those experiences and they place them unrealistically on new experiences with new pastors, and they're like, "This is what my mom's pastor did. Why won't you do that?" And so on and so forth. And it's a very different age by nature of the fact that there's social media involved. There's all these things that people are involved with and people do. I mean, to think that you're just simply doing ministry, you're doing hospital calls, sermon prep, Sunday school classes or whatever else like that. You think that's just ministry. It's much more than that because you're having so many different lunches, breakfasts, everything else like that, coffee with several different congregants a week. Not to mention you're doing a budget for the church and everything else like that. And you're taking in money and you're trying to figure out how you organize it best to honor God. I mean, that's a lot of what goes on. And then when somebody comes in and kind of A-bombs that world, and they're like, hey, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now and do what I tell you to. And I'm like, that just never flew with me. So there's a lot of times that people would not, it doesn't mean that I won't do that also. There was a time that, unfortunately, there's a young lady who committed suicide here in Phoenix. And I didn't know her parents or anything like that, but her parents knew somebody at our church. And that guy got a hold of me and he said, hey, if you can do this, it's a kid, it's a 15-year-old girl. She just committed suicide. Would you come and would you be with the parents and talk with them? And would you be interested in doing the funeral? And I said, sure, I can serve in that. And I didn't really have anything going on that week. So I was like, that's obviously something I can help with. And so I went there, prayed with them and ministered to them and so on and so forth. And it was good. But I think that, that's the less entitled people are, when it comes to addressing pastors about certain things, the absolute more you'll get from any pastor. You just will. The guys who are less entitled, they'll be like, hey, man, if you got a chance sometime, I'd love to get coffee with you and talk about some stuff in my heart. Well, sure, man, absolutely. But if a guy comes in and they're like, hey, dude, I pay your tithe, I pay your salary, you need to get over here and do what I tell you to. People are entitled like that. They think because you tithe to a church, you're not giving to God, you're giving to the pastor. You're making his wheels turn.
Yeah.
It's not true. God writes us paychecks, bro. So, he can get it from you or he can get it from somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. I feel like we just went through a family therapy.
That was
family cathartic, right?
Therapeutic.
Very therapeutic. Yeah, I don't know if we've ever talked about that as a family. That's kind of crazy.
We talked about it like individually.
Yeah,
I've talked about it individually with you.
I don't
and
think
Mom.
I've ever talked about
I don't
my
think we've ever
experiences in
talked
ministry.
about it.
Yeah, what did you think about that, Madeline? What was your experience like in ministry? Did you enjoy it, or were you just like this is because you were? I mean, from the time you were a baby until you were like 11 or 12,
and you were little when Mom and Dad
I think
left.
it was a lot harder to not stay a Christian, but stay steady in my faith when we got out of the ministry, just because it wasn't so involved and it wasn't so, not like overwhelming. It was a little overwhelming, but what we were put on a pedestal. we were put to a higher standard than others, because we literally have the acronym PK.
Yeah,
We have
kid.
that for a reason, because because
What is this acronym?
PK, pastor's kid.
You never heard PK before?
Okay.
PK.
Oh, I thought you meant like our family had this. I was like,
no.
I've never heard of this family
every
acronym.
every pastor's kid has
Pastor's
PK.
kid,
Yeah, pastor's kid. And I think that it was stressful, but I do think that it helped me keep a steady faith, and it helps me understand more my faith and help grow in it. But when we got out of that and I started becoming like a teenager, and I started getting very insecure and very scared a lot, because I went to a public school where a lot of people weren't believers, and a lot of people just didn't really want to hear about it or didn't really understand it.
It was more of a hostile environment.
It was a lot more of a hostile environment. And
You guys went to the same public school.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. We had very different experience. The high school that she is going to now is not the high school that I went to.
It's a little crazy. But
Well, that you graduated already, I should say.
yeah.
That she
Well,
went to.
I also feel like you're a lot more headstrong, and you're a lot more bold to where you will say what you want, and
yeah,
you
I
will
didn't really
stand up
care.
for yourself. Like,
I didn't really
yeah.
care all that much, because I had my core group of friends
Yeah.
who were Christian.
Yeah, you knew who you were, and in high school it was a little bit more difficult for me, just because I was with a friend group that wasn't exactly Christians, and I still loved them to death. It was just I couldn't connect with them on a deeper level that I could with other Christians. And once I got out of high school, I kind of realized, I was like, wow, I was falling off deep of like my faith, and just spending time with God and understanding my growth in faith. And it was kind of just an eye opener. And I had realized I hadn't gone to church in a while, and I still haven't, just because I was busy with 2 jobs, but that's another story.
How much pressure do you get from your dad to go to church? Now? Seriously, now.
Now, not a lot. I think you guys kind of understood, kind of. Like, I know that you would love for me to go to church every single Sunday, and obviously I would love to go to church every single Sunday, but sometimes there was just when I was like working doubles on work back to back, and I would get home at like 10:30 or even later if I was working at another job or something like that, where I simply honestly just did not have the energy to do anything on Sunday. And then I had to work on Sunday as well, so it was just even more stressful. But we're slowly climbing out of that like little pit of just like, I don't know, busyness. I was very busy, but now I'm getting out of that, and I'm hoping to go to church this Sunday. I know I will.
It's a different thing as a dad pastor, and as a pastor in general, to, you know, as a I think every dad is a pastor of his own home. And so part of what I do is give my kids grace to grow, but then I'm pretty intentional about talking to them about their faith.
Yeah.
I don't mince words or anything like that. But I do mix my expectations for them, meaning I don't guilt or shame my kids at all. I think that is we've experienced that in our family in weird ways, to be honest with you, through extra family outside our nuclear family. We've experienced that, and that's been a very, very bad thing for our family. And I think all of my kids are really sensitized to shame. And so there's no way, there's never been a way, even if I wanted to shame my kids to do something I want to. They would just look at me like, well, God loves me, Dad. Who cares what you think? You know? So, I mean,
I think you've raised us to like be, how do I word this? You were going to say something. I'll think of it.
I was going to say, I felt like you were more hands off after we turned 18.
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
You were
Just because you were
100%.
like, you're an adult now.
Yeah.
If your faith is true, then now it's up to you to continue going to church, pursuing your relationship with Christ. Not that you weren't open to having any conversation with us, or if you noticed us doing something like so morally wrong, you wouldn't bring it. I'd be like, we need to sit down and have a conversation.
Madeline gave me a little shot the other day. It was great.
What did I do?
Yeah. You went this weekend to go spend the night at somebody's house, friends. And I asked, remember this? I asked, I'm like, are there gonna be any boys there? And she looked at me, she's like, what's it matter, Dad? I'm an adult. I can do what I want. And I was
Which
like,
is 100% true.
100% true, but I'm still gonna know about it, and I'm still gonna go, well, Madeline, you are my daughter, and I love you, and I want to protect you, even though you're an adult and everything else like that. So I think letting you know that, and letting our kids know that even though they're adults, and they all are adults now. I mean, you're 18, Camden's 20, and Savannah, you're 23? 24?
Yes, I'm 23.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I had to take a drink.
I can't remember all my kids. I still don't know their birthdays. I know Cam's August 29th.
You don't know my birthday? It's
You're-
like the easiest one.
November 6th? 16th?
Dad.
So I don't know. It's
Hers
horrible.
is May 6th. What's mine?
May 6th. May 6th. That's
What is
right.
mine?
Yours is, I don't know.
Dad.
It's November 16th?
No,
15th?
that's your sister's.
14th?
15th.
It's a teenth. I'm horrible at birthdays. I know your mom's is May 8th, right?
Oh my gosh, Mom's is May
18th. May 18th. I see. It's really bad. I'm sorry.
We
I'm
have
sorry.
to text. Look, this is what happens. We
Honestly,
text
really
Dad,
sorry.
it's Mom's birthday, or Mom texts Dad, it's
Honestly-
Cam's birthday, it's Madeline's birthday. Make sure you say happy birthday.
I know Camden's is August 29th.
To be honest,
Then
in
how
your
do you
defense,
only know Camden's?
Because he's the only boy. I mean, he's the only boy I have. So as a result,
Well,
when it comes to girls, I'm like, is that Madeline or is that Savannah? With Cam, I'm
Or
like, that's the only
Jamie.
boy. Yeah. Yeah, or Jamie. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, in your defense, I don't think I know your birthday. Isn't it?
It's July 5th.
It's July 5th.
Because
Yeah,
we always
July 5th.
we
Day
always
after 4th of
celebrate on
July.
4th of July.
Right.
Yeah.
Fireworks,
Oh, never mind. Not in your defense. I knew that.
I had to delay my birth because America's more important to Bradley. So July 4th is more important than July 5th, So, but I think that, but when in raising you guys, I think it's really interesting. I guess this is great therapy. This is really good, to be honest with you. And we're sharing it with all of you guys out here.
We should do this more often.
Never ever thought it was going to go this direction. I was going to try to, manipulate it a different way that I wanted, but then, I'm okay with it. What were some good things that happened as you were growing up under our house, and what were some challenging things that happened? I'd love to hear those.
Specifically in regards to ministry, or just
Oh,
in
just
you
anything,
raising?
just growing up,
okay.
just growing
I
up
have
and
one.
growing up as a wreath. Yeah, growing up as a wreath. I mean, Savannah grew up as a wreath and then changed her name. So, but I mean, it's
You knew that was going to happen.
I did, and Madeline's name will change one day too. Yeah, I get it. But so what were some challenges and what were some some good memories?
I will
I'm
tell-
curious because I'm
ahead.
sure
You
you guys
go.
want to know.
I will tell you, growing up with a dad who is very, very headstrong, very, very how do I? Well, I don't want to make you mad.
You're not gonna make me mad. I'm okay.
You're very stubborn.
Yeah,
You're so
100%.
stubborn.
Where do you think we get it?
That's true.
Both of you
That's
guys
true.
come by,
And
honestly.
I think we butt heads a lot because I'm very stubborn myself, and
Whoa. First off, you are something over and above stubborn woman. You are the drama queen. You are a drama
I am
oh.
less dramatic than I used to be.
Well, much
Please,
less.
Thank you. Thank you.
But there are times you
comes
come
with
in.
age.
I just know what I want, and I know
There-
that.
There are times you come in and I'm like, hey, she comes in at night and I'm up, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and Madeline will say something and it comes off like catty and really angry, and I'm like, okay, daggone. And she's like, and then she comes back like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to bed. Leave me alone. Yeah,
I don't mean it.
yeah, it's crazy.
No, it's just I have a lot of tone to my voice, and it's just like that.
It's called attitude.
It's called drama. Attitude, aka drama. Okay.
Oh, you can be the drama queen sometimes.
Oh, I'm a total drama queen.
When
yeah.
you're
100%.
sick, Dad, it's
Oh my
like
gosh.
the world is ending.
Jamie, get me so.
Sorry, continue with
I don't
yours,
ever get sick,
Madeline.
but when I do get sick, I'm a drama queen. Yeah, for sure.
You look like you're dying.
I feel like I'm dying every time I'm sick. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Where was I?
I
You
don't
were
know.
saying Dad was really headstrong.
I'm
You're very
so
headstrong.
headstrong,
You raised us to be very strong, and I think that's very important because we have a mother who is very, very sensitive, very, very gentle and calming. But when she gets mad, when that woman gets mad, it is terrifying.
You run for the hills.
You run. But
So just FYI, I cuss a little and love Jesus. My wife never cusses, and when she
No.
cusses, it is an
Terrifying.
absolute
It is
hell on earth.
terrifying.
All of us would
And-
go in our rooms and hide until
my
Mom and
God.
Dad
I
were
would
done
go in the room
talking.
and hide. I was just like, holy crap! Don't say that, please. You're so sweet and kind and gentle. Don't ever say that.
do you remember when in the John Cabot, how the pink house, where we would have the vents that would connect to our rooms?
That was Arborg.
Arborg. That was
Arborg.
Arborg. We used to have an old house that had a vent that connected to our rooms, and whenever Mom, we'd all be like, "Do you think we're in trouble? Or are we?"
And
are
we're
we okay?"
talking
and we would
through
talk
the
through the
vents.
vents. Because I mean, it was the only thing that we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have everything. That was
Yeah.
our form of communication. I just thought that was funny.
That's fine.
But back to the point. I think it was very important to have a strong dad who raised us to be strong, but also had a mom who raised us to be sensitive but strong. And those combined, I think, raised us to be very, 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 very equal in those two things. And I think it's a very good balance. So that is one thing that I really, really did.
I think all of my kids are very strong. I think all of them are very determined. They wouldn't I don't think any of you guys would get pushed over, by anybody.
No.
Yeah, if they tried to manipulate you. So there are so many people who have tried to manipulate me in my life that
you are so, oh my,
yeah,
I'm sorry, you're so sassy.
Yeah, she is. Savannah's even before me, Savannah would speak up about something. If we were in a room and the conversation became manipulative, Savannah would be like, "Excuse me," and I would sit there and wait for the sniper moment where I could tell the person that sounds manipulative what you're saying, But that happens all the time.
I don't
that
care.
happens all
I
the
just
time.
cut it off immediately.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. People try to manipulate you in your life and everything else like
Yeah.
that, and they try to make you feel guilty or shameful about something. I'm like, dude, Jesus died for all my shame. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. If there's something I need to be honestly repent from or honestly say sorry for, I got no problem doing that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, to be quite honest, they try to control your life, try to manipulate you through something. And it's true. It happens all the time.
Well,
It
that's just
happens
people.
in business a lot. Yeah,
That's
it
just
does.
people.
Yeah, for sure. Savannah, what about you?
Well, I wanted to hear her challenges.
Okay, what are the
My
challenges?
challenges?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go through all the weak stuff. Say all the good stuff. Now get into the bad stuff.
Let's get into my childhood trauma.
Let's just
No,
lay it out there for
You're
everybody.
like, this is great.
We're 30 minutes in, and I'm just like, let's stop the film. Let's stop it now.
My challenges, like just growing up with as a wreath. I don't know. I can't.
I feel like
really-
it's also the stubbornness.
Yeah, the stubborn. I feel like, okay, you know how I said that there was a good balance of like strong and gentle. I was like, I think I am closer to mom than I will ever be with you. I'm close in a different way with you. But I think mom really had the biggest impact on me, which left me more on the sensitive side. So a lot of the time I would get taken advantage of. I would get mostly too carried away in friendships that I thought were going to last, but they ended up didn't. They just kind of fell apart. But I think that did create a soft spot that like slowly got broken by a lot of people and a lot of experiences. And I think that was a really big challenge that I needed to, like, now I'm not as sensitive. Now I could give two craps, to be completely honest with you.
Good work.
Keep it clean. Keep it clean. Keep it clean. You're your father's daughter, but keep it clean. Yeah.
Doing it for Jesus.
Yeah.
No cussing.
I love my kids. They're so fun. But yeah, I would say you're more like your mom. I'd say
Yeah.
Savannah's more like me for sure.
Oh,
I
100%.
am. Yeah, I am like her. I'm highly sensitive,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
oh my goodness, it sucks. But it's
There's time. So what that means is there's times that you just need to be absolutely quiet and alone. And
Yeah.
I'm rock and roll 24/7. So the crazy thing is there's times where I'm loud, and your mom literally tells me you need to go away from the house. Go to the shop. Go do something else. Go ride your
You know what
motorcycle.
she says
Go
a lot?
away. Yeah.
she's like, Bradley, I need you to leave right now, or I'm gonna bite your head off.
It's true. It's
She
true.
says it to like all of us, but it's
I'm basically a lab. That's what I am as a person. I'm like, hey guys, hey,
why Goose is
who
your
wants to
favorite
play?
dog.
Yeah, and then to be honest with you, Jamie is very much like our dog Penny, who's
Aw,
very quiet.
Penny.
Jamie's just not as fat as Penny. Penny's super fat.
is.
But Jamie,
just
our dog weighs
old.
more than Jamie. But my wife is very quiet. She's very. She's just awesome. There's
She's
1,000
an
things about her that's amazing.
angel.
Yeah, she really is a saint.
she's a
I mean,
saint.
not just for marrying me, but for putting up with me all these years. She is a saint. So there's no doubt about that. All right, Savannah. Go into your the benefits and the struggles of growing up with the last name Wreath.
I mean, I don't think it has a lot to do with my last name. I feel like we were very fortunate. I feel like I was very fortunate in my parents, just having good examples of what it looks like to follow Christ, but also good examples of what it looks like to have a godly marriage.
oh yeah.
Since getting married, and once you get married, you want to have other married friends because you're in the same stage of life. You want to help each other through it.
Sure.
And since getting married, I have become acutely aware that I was very, very blessed and in a very unique circumstance to have parents who had such a strong God-centered marriage, and to have that example going into marriage and know how to conduct myself in marriage, because that is not the case for everybody. And I have unfortunately seen other marriages fall apart around me. And I initially, like, I just couldn't understand why. I'm like, but don't you love each other so much? Like, isn't God at the center? And then as some things came out, I was like, oh, he wasn't. And I was like, that's what makes the difference. Is God was always at the center for mom and dad. And that's because, I mean, marriage isn't easy under even the best of circumstances. So, and I know that there were definitely some very difficult times for you guys as well. So that was hugely impactful for me, not only in my marriage now, but also like in looking for a husband, of what attributes do I want my husband to have, and talking to mom about that. I didn't talk to you as much about it. You really led by example of like what
I arranged the marriage. That's what I did. I literally did. I arranged this marriage.
You get married.
I literally,
No.
so just so you guys know, Savannah's husband, Ethan, came to me when we first opened the shop and said, I'm really interested in your daughter. And I think
he really?
Oh, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
he's
You didn't
never
know
told me.
this?
He
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
tell
You didn't know
He
this?
didn't tell me
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It was so cute.
and
I
so-
wasn't there, but Dad told me about it.
in the whole thing, I told Ethan, you know, I think he made mention to you, and you were at one point saying, I just like you as a friend, you know. I don't think, And so
Yeah.
I told him, I
Broke that
said,
man's heart.
I said, play the long game, dude. She'll come around. I know my daughter. I know the kind of character that you have. It will mesh up really well. So, and it did, you know, it really did. And he won the prize, which is your heart. So I think that's a really cool thing. So hey, you guys out there, you're wanting the pastor's daughter and everything like that, go talk to the pastor himself. He'll be able to tell you if you're the character that can, you know, can take his daughter's heart. You know?
Madeline.
Okay, Madeline. Yeah.
Cut that part out.
The phone number is 602. No, we're not going to do that. You can call the shop. So in that regard, yeah. So when you see, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
what were
that
some of
was
the challenges?
really,
What
that
were
was
some of the
really
challenges?
helpful. You were challenging.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I know I am.
Because I'm like a copy paste version of you.
100%. Yeah.
I am my father's daughter. And
If we had to lead a project together, whatever it was, and Savannah and I were in a group of 10 people, and they were like, well, who's going to be leader? We
would
both
be
shoot up our
fighting for
hands.
first place.
We both shoot up our hands the first time and go, me, I'm the leader. And
Let's
Savannah
just
goes, no.
say on family board game nights, it's not so pretty.
yeah,
Let's just say that.
I'm all about winning.
me too. We're super competitive. No, but specifically, I remember specifically, it got really, really bad my senior year of high school. You were also going through a lot of stuff. Like
I think
outside
I think that's when I was
didn't
getting
know
out of
about
Cigar
this.
Warehouse and getting into.
There was a lot going on, and then senior year of high school, there's a lot going on. I was like on my swim team. I was captain, so you're dealing with that responsibility. You're getting ready for college. I turned 18 that year, pretty early on in the school year. So now you're an 18-year-old. You're trying to figure out the boundaries of being a new adult, but also living in your parents' house. It's very, very difficult. But you and I butted heads a lot. There was that
was a bad year for me.
That was a bad, but what I'm saying is, I don't think we wouldn't have butted heads as much had we not been so similar, because neither of us wanted to back down.
Sure.
And eventually mom had to take me aside and was like, Dad's having a very hard time. He's not really thinking straight. You have to be the one to back down.
Yeah.
And eventually I had to be like, okay, I have to be the one to back down. Dad doesn't mean what he's saying. And I just need to back down and try and keep the peace until Dad can get over this season.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. And after my senior year, once I started working here, that really healed and mended a lot of bridges, which was the complete opposite of what I thought it was going to do. Because everyone told me, they're like, it will ruin your relationship if you work with family. And it had the opposite effect for us. I think part of it was you started to see me more as an adult because you saw me in a working environment, and you're like, oh, she's an adult. She's very capable. So I think that was very helpful. But also, when you're spending that much time together every day, you have conversations and you start to heal from those.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I also think this is a place that wouldn't really give you a lot of high stress. Like
Well,
you want to.
it doesn't
in
give
the
you.
beginning, it kind of was just because
Really?
you're trying. Well, I've been here since it was like like 4 or 5 months into it, right,
Yeah.
Dad?
Yeah.
Like those were still like grinding days.
Yeah,
like
you were just, like,
you're working really, really
starting out.
hard.
Yeah.
So that there's a little bit more pressure.
I still
on
think
that
I work
end.
hard, but that's okay.
No, you still work hard. You still work, but there's
Maybe a little
I know.
lower.
But there's
No.
parts of the business that are so well established now, you don't have to work so hard at them.
Yeah.
That's
Sure,
what I
sure.
mean. You have the ability to start other things and work really hard at those.
Yeah.
But I think us having such similar personalities was a challenge in that we would butt heads a lot. And you don't back down. And I don't back down. So eventually someone has to realize, okay, I have to back down or this is
Yeah.
going to go.
It was like fighting fire with fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Mom was the water.
Mom was
Well, mom always is the water.
Yeah,
mom's
She's the peacemaker.
Mom
Yeah.
is my peace. There's no doubt about that. If I want to go anywhere to have peace, I go to your mom.
Yeah.
And it's very, very soothing and very relaxing. I love that. I really do. I love that about your mom. So I mean, she's absolutely everything I could ever want in a wife and mother. There's no doubt about that. Everything. There's no. Yeah. That's why I don't ever deal with like, when people ask me, what's it like being married 29 years? I'm like, it just gets better every freaking year. It really does, And I look back when we were first married and we didn't have kids the first 5 years of our marriage. And we went around the country, flew around everywhere with
I didn't know
ministry.
about this.
Oh, we
when
loved
they
it.
were
Yeah.
in Campus Crusade, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
It was wonderful.
okay.
Yeah,
No,
it was wonderful.
I know that.
When speaking all over the country, it was really
Yeah.
great. But I honestly think that going back to the pastor thing, it's something that somebody told me. I think I should have listened to them when I was in Dublin, and they said, "You're more of a communicator and speaker than a pastor." And I went, "What do you mean?" They said, "You're very good at communicating. You're very good speaking
yeah.
up front and everything else like that. But pastors also have to have a really, really near and dear shepherd's heart where you take on almost the burden of your flock." And I just didn't.
Yeah.
I never did. I was like, well, that's hard. It's hard that you're going through that, but I wouldn't necessarily take on that burden. And I don't know if that was in my DNA to not really feel that way or anything else like that. But when it did start getting to me, I was able to just be like, okay, I'm done talking about it. So I think during that time when I was with your mom before we had kids, I was speaking so much all the time at local high schools and around the country and stuff like that. It was very easy, to do that. And that wasn't very stressful necessarily, other than the pressure of, performing in front of people when they're asking, what are you going to talk about? And you're talking to public school kids, things like that. So anyways,
Yeah. I think that you have a really incredible gift of being able to touch people's hearts through what you say. And that is really, truly amazing because I don't know anybody who could speak to somebody and really, really make them think about the words that you said more than you. Like it really, truly is incredible. But I don't think that, I don't think being a pastor was your place to do that.
well, I think also
that sounds wrong.
and that's okay. I know what you mean. I think part of it was, I don't like politics a lot.
Yeah.
I really don't like politics, and I don't like kissing up to anybody.
Yeah.
There's nobody I like kissing. I've never felt like I needed to. And I got that from your grandfather. I never saw my dad kiss up to anybody.
Yeah.
And so I've never seen that. So
I think
like
that man is
I think,
more headstrong than you.
Well, yeah. 100%. Grandpa Reith? Yeah. But I think that, I think that probably hurt me a little bit because I didn't know how to be diplomatic about saying things. When someone would say like, here's the issue, I'm like, why are we talking about this? This is stupid.
Yeah.
This is a dumb issue. When people are asking about why a song is, not within rhythm of some weird hymn they heard, or somebody rewrote. I remember sitting at a meeting one time, somebody rewrote a hymn and it made it more like rock and roll. And they were like, we need to have a conversation about this. No, we don't. It's a good idea. Who cares? This is stupid. Why we don't have a conversation? We're not going to have a meeting about this. Then I was called angry and arrogant. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm angry and arrogant about dumb things. That's what I'm angry and arrogant about. So I think that things like that
Yeah.
don't play well in the church world when you need to be diplomatic about things.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays with everything coming into the church and everything like that's against the church, which is basically culture as a whole. I mean, I just couldn't deal with that. I couldn't deal with I couldn't be PC up front. I couldn't be PC. If somebody came up to me, my heart goes out to people who are struggling with stuff. But if your life is a result of your choices and your life is going down the tubes and somebody tells you 3 or 4 times, hey, you got to make different choices in order for your life to turn around. One of those choices is Jesus, and there's 3 or 4 other choices behind it that really need to happen. And someone refuses to do that, and they keep going down the tubes. I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what happens a little bit with the not being such a great pastor. You know, I didn't have I guess what do you call it? I don't know.
Let me rephrase. I think you're an amazing pastor. I just think that
your gifts are more effective outside of the church.
I don't think that. I think that you speaking as a pastor, to me, kind of looked like more of a job than something that you get to do and that you get to talk about God and that you get to touch people's hearts every single day. I think that you have more effectively touched a lot more people's hearts a lot more deeply when you got out of ministry than when you were a pastor, because I don't think that it felt like a job. I think that it was something that you were like, let's talk about this and let's have a conversation and let me try to like help you understand this if you have a question and stuff like that.
Well, when you're paid to love Jesus, it's a little different thing than, you know, working hard at something yourself and creating your own form of wealth.
Yeah.
And then, you know, having the honor and, you know, joy to tell someone about Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, so but keep make no mistake, dude. Every pastor that gets a paycheck from his church, he's paid to love Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, so if there's a crisis of faith or something like that, and it happens, there's a crisis of faith, that's a big crisis.
Yeah.
Because it affects the money coming in and everything else like that. Your whole family's built around that. So that's why I think in my personal opinion, you're going to see more pastors go towards bivocational ministry in the future where they can do something else and maybe get like a half.
Bivocational? Can you explain that, please?
Bivocational means that your total paycheck doesn't come from the church. It comes from something else. Like if I was working in ministry right now, and I worked like 25 hours here and 25 hours in ministry, that'd be like 50 hours a week, you know?
Ooh,
something
okay.
like, so that's what I think. I think that's where it needs to go in the future, because a lot of people they're working for people. They're not working for God. They're afraid of people, and they're afraid of, you know, these elders or these deacons or whoever else in their church, and they're working for their fear of man really enters into that. And it's just not something I really got into. Yeah. You know, I mean, people I didn't like, I just didn't want to hang out with. I just tell them, I'm sorry, I don't want to hang out with you. I did hang out with some people particularly in Dublin, I didn't want to hang out with because I had to, you know, and I just had to do it. I didn't want to, and it made me miserable. I'll never do it again. I'll never meet or talk or be with anybody else again. I don't want to meet with.
Yeah.
There's never a time that I do that now. You know, and I felt like that in ministry was one of my hardest things to get over, is talking with people that you don't want to talk with and you don't have to talk with, but you do out of niceness. Yeah. And trust me, there's a lot of pastors out there who do that. They're like, well, I got to meet with them.
Because it feels like a waste of your time.
It is a waste of my time.
And you're also like, you're very business minded of like, how can I effectively use my time? I'm like that a lot. Yeah. Like if I'm talking to someone and I don't want to talk to him, like, this is a waste of my time, I will try and end the conversation as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Sure.
Because I don't want to talk to people who aren't nice. They're not kind. But like,
there's a guy recently in the lounge that cut me off in the middle of a conversation I was having. I told him, stop! Don't cut me off. What the heck are you doing? That's rude. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And he kind of got shocked. He was like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Yeah, don't cut someone else. Tell a story. You just cut me off. Freaking idiot! What are you talking about? Don't do that to somebody." And keep this in mind. I think I've told you guys this before, but we train people how to treat us. If you allow someone to do that to you, if you allow someone to cut you off and allow someone to manipulate a conversation, you're teaching them that you are manipulatable. And exactly. And you never want to give somebody that upper hand in your life, because they don't deserve it. I mean, no one should manipulate anybody. But I mean, there's people out there, and there's a whole genre of YouTube videos dedicated to stupid guys, dedicated to teaching men how to manipulate conversations for their own benefit, which that is not how it's supposed to be at all, dude. Huh?
Like podcasts?
Oh, there's absolutely lots of podcasts out there. This is how you do our alpha male stupid shit. You know what I mean? It is. It's like, you know what? This is how 7 secrets to unlocking manipulation when the person doesn't even know.
I think I was there when you saw a video of it, and I was like,
it's on my feed all the time now because of the algorithm.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time because there's a lot of people that use tactics like that for sales, and they do that. They're kind of like, you know, hey, let's look at this, and it's just money driven. The problem is when you do that plays into your life in other ways where you think you're the center of the universe, the God of your own universe, and everyone's meant to serve you. And that's where everything gets all jacked up. Really jacked up. And that's where young men are going today. I see it.
And then they meet people like us, and we're like, why are you trying to manipulate us?
Yeah,
and then they're like, holy crap, I didn't even know that you would notice.
Yeah, that's a big no. Yeah, that's a big no. So when that happens, I get pretty excited when I can expose somebody like that. So yeah, that's for sure. Well, girls, if there's anything else that you want to say to the camera, say it, because this is the last 5 seconds, 5 minutes. Go.
The challenges of being a wreath.
The challenge. There we go.
Oh, she has more.
I got one more. Pronouncing our last name. Oh my gosh. Rife?
Well, it's
Madeline Rife?
Yes, it's Scottish, it's Irish, and it's German. It's all three of those.
Oh, it's all three.
Yeah,
and then they say it.
Reich, it's a Rife. It's Rife in Scotland. We have a crest and everything, and then Rife in German, and then it's also Welsh as well. We got some Welsh in there as well as some English.
Yeah.
And then they say it correctly. I was like, oh, it's wreath. And they're like, oh my goodness, like the Christmas wreath?
Yeah.
We're like, no, R-E-I-T-H.
I was like, it's a little different, but you're on the right track.
When people are trying to spell our last name, I tell people it's like Keith with an R.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before.
Keith with an R.
Yeah,
like Keith with an R. Wreath. Yeah. That's what I tell people. Yeah,
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Savannah, you turned in Wreath for a good last name. Marshall's easy to spell. Because everybody knows how to spell Marshall.
So easy.
Oh, you would think.
Well, you would think, but you live
every
in Tennessee.
time it's like, how do you spell Marshall? I'm like, it's like fire marshal. They're like, okay, spell that for me. It's like, you don't know how to spell fire marshal? This is what's wrong with society.
Or an M.
Everybody in Tennessee is like, yo, how you spell that? Is that with the M-A-R? Is that what's like in Tennessee? Is everybody just like Southern?
No, a lot of people don't have accents actually. Unless you live like really far outside of Knoxville, then you'll have an accent. Like super tiny towns.
Does everybody have a cowboy hat?
No.
There's a lot of it there. I know.
Well, I got you one, so
you did.
You wear it.
Yeah. Not everyone has a cowboy hat, but no, not everyone has an accent either.
You got to embody your true Southern when you wear that in Tennessee.
Yeah. I like to tease my friends that I'm more country than they are.
You know what's funny?
You've always been country. That's your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like to tease my friends who like introduced me to like country music and rodeos and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But these are also the same friends that we used to go creek walking all the time and like swimming in rivers and lakes and everything, right?
Sure.
We went fishing with some friends. And I just walked straight into, I hiked up my jeans, I walked straight into the river, and they're like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going fishing. They're like, you're in the middle of a river. I was like, okay. They're like, you're going to get bit by a snake. I was like, okay, so you catch it and you take it to the hospital to make sure it's not poisonous. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. And Ethan's just worried that I'm going to drown. He's like, I know you're not going to get bit by a snake. I know you know what you're doing, but like, are you okay? Like the river's going really fast. I was like, I know how to swim. I'm fine. You're
this
all
is why
here.
You two are
but I was like,
exactly the same.
They're like, you need like
Exactly
water boots and like the rubber suspenders. And I was like, no, you don't. You don't.
That's great.
But
That's
I'm like,
great.
I don't know. That's my funny. One thing. I'm like, I get to tease you about this.
Well, guys, these have been my two daughters. I am absolutely super proud of. Both of them are incredible, and I had no idea it was going to turn into a family therapy session. But it was really kind of fun, and I really enjoyed the free thought. It was
progress.
Really good.
Let's meet next time.
If you guys have any comments, questions, or insults, please drop them below in the comments section, and I'll put this up on YouTube a little bit later on. And thank you so much for listening to the Cut Light and Smoke podcast. We'll be back here again next week with some more content. So for the Cut Light and Smoke podcast, I've been Bradley. This has been Madeline, and that's Savannah, and we're out of here like last year. Peace.
Bye.